Okay, we're gonna be starting, if everybody could hold tight, please. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the July 22nd, 2024 Franklin Planning Board meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799 with a meeting number of 926-76-13144. Apologize for the small room tonight, folks, but they're doing the council chambers over, so try to keep it brief. What we'll take care of is general business first, to get some things off the list, and the first would be a final Form 8 for 10 Kenwood Circle. Amy, if I could defer to you as Department of Planning.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the planning board approved the site plan at 10 Kenwood Circle on March 11th, 2024. It was to improve the traffic flow throughout the site. They had a change of use. It's more of a delivery company right now. We did not have Beta take a look at that. They submitted the final Form H, and then I can defer to our town engineer, Mike Maglio, for an update.
If we could go to Mike, please, from DPW.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as Amy mentioned, the proposed plan was really just an operations type plan. They were making some improvements within the building. I spoke to Gus Brown today, the building commissioner, and he's satisfied with the work interior. One thing that was in the plan they were going to do was have some no parking signs installed on Kenwood Circle. I had a discussion with the developer after the approval, and due to the town's bylaws, that no parking signs would be something that have to be added to the bylaws and go in front of town council. So I told them what you should do is just do temporary no parking signs, bring them out during their operations, because we don't necessarily want to restrict parking for other people on Kenwood Circle, unless.
But just for them.
Just for them while they're operating. So that's on the plan. They have the plan. If there are issues with their operations, we have something to go back to make sure they're enforcing that the way they are. So we're satisfied with what they did.
And Gus is okay with that as well?
Yes, spoke to them today.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any comments, questions?
The no parking was an issue of trailers or cars?
It was mainly the issue, for this particular parcel, is the issue with their cars, their delivery drivers during the hours in the morning.
Okay,
Because they would show up for about an hour or two, then they disappear, so it was only during that time, so.
okay. I've been over to Kenwood and I've just seen tractors parked, so I'm assuming it's not.
That's a
this
site up the street, that's a
Okay.
totally different issue.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Good. Jay? Yeah, oh yeah.
You're muted.
Actually, I just want to let everybody know, for the audience.
Sorry, I attempted to hit the space button for some reason, it didn't work, but I have nothing on that one, Chairman.
So, hold on one sec, Jay. Just for everybody's knowledge, Jay's doing Zoom, and Beth is not attending tonight. She's not feeling well, so it'll be just us with Jay on Zoom. Go ahead, Jay, I'm sorry.
My apologies, I'm trying to communicate by pressing the space bar and it's not letting me, but I have nothing regarding that,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, so I make a motion to approve 10 Kenwood Circle, the final Form H, with the provision that the temporary sign is gonna be out front and then gonna be monitored. There is a second?
Second.
All in
Roll
fa-
call.
Yep, roll call, vote.
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes,
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Next item of business, this would be a discussion for 330 to 332 East Central Street. Amy, if I could go to you, please, for Department of Planning.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, the board requested that owner applicant attend a meeting to discuss. 2 letters have been sent about the concern of the trim color at, it's really 330 and 332 East Central Street. And so they are here to discuss about the concern with the color. I think the board was concerned that it's more of a lavender and it's not the white that the had shown in the approved plan.
Correct. Okay.
Hi, Joe Halligan, owner 340 East Central product. I personally never saw the difference in color until someone on the board here brought it up, and then once you know and you start staring at it, you can see a slight tint to the white AZAC. Just as a reminder to the board, this all happened in 2021, right in the middle of the COVID. We tried giving samples to the design review, but at that time, nobody was taking anything. Everything was Zoom. So we proposed everything we could, the best we could, via Zoom, trying to get the colors and everything. We also had a very hard time getting AZAC trim at that time, as we all know, supply chain was dead. So we found a supplier, I have all the receipts here I can pass out to you guys. We purchased it all in good faith, that is, and we've spoken to them recently. That is their white color, and it explicitly says white. I've learned a lot about AZAC trim after the concerns of the board. There's multiple shades of AZAC. You go to Home Depot, they get about 6 different shades. There's a greenish tint white, there's a pink white, there's a gray white. You know, being in the auto body business too, someone comes in with a white car, they want to paint their bumper cover, they paint it to white. They stand back and you can see a slight difference in shade. We did our best to comply with what was submitted. This is their white, the manufacturer's white, so it's not like we tried buying something else at a cheaper price. It was all we could get at the time during the supply chains to finish it, because the board was really after us, you know, why is this project taking so long? We bought any supplies we could get to get the product done. Product's complete, 90% occupied, no complaints from the residents, everything's going good. All the stores are happy, the place is occupied, they're doing well, and would like to resolve the issue. We called the manufacturer several times, and they're saying it's their white. And I guess if you have a real sharp eye and you want to sit there and stare at it, you can find the excuse that it's not bright bleach white. You drive by at 30 miles an hour, it's white. So, I mean, I guess I leave it to the board. There's not much I can do at this point. It's installed, it's done. We asked if the vendor if we could paint it. They don't suggest painting it. Might last a few years, start flaking off, and it'll look a lot worse in the eye than what's there now. It looks clean now. I mean, it's nice, no complaints. But I'm here to hear your concerns. I mean, it's not a safety issue. I mean, it's.
No, it was just what was approved and what was applied. It would have been nice to know.
We
You
tried
and I-
our best.
You and I spoke a long time
Yeah.
ago about it.
We
and,
tried our best to submit to the design review. They would not take samples at the time.
Should have notified the planning
But
board.
with your concern, well, we only could supply what we had. Planning board was Zoom too. You were on it with me at the time. And
Okay, we'll go to the board first, see what you.
we, just as a note, on this new project we're coming forward tonight, we submitted samples guaranteeing this issue may not possibly happen again. They've got the original AZAC samples, they've got the siding samples, everything is right, what you want.
Comments, questions from the board?
It's purple. I don't think it's a drive-by look quickly. It looks lavender. I understand your concern. I mean, I'm an architect. During COVID, we had to get building samples of huge commercial buildings, small scale projects, interior, exterior samples. So I'm not sure. I feel like there were ways to get samples during COVID, but I know every manufacturer is different.
We had the samples, but we couldn't turn them into the boards. We couldn't turn it into design review. They weren't accepting any samples live. And they were just taking, actually, if I brought you the Mylars and showed what they approved on the Mylars, you'd be throwing me out of the room, because the computer colors don't come out the same as an actual print. And it's way off.
And there's no way to paint it
We've
or
talked-
refinish
You
it.
can paint it.
You can paint it, but it's not guaranteed to last like AZAC. I mean, it's gonna be huge problems down the line. But I'm here to listen. I mean, if it really bothers people that much that it's, you know, detrimental, I mean,
I must say, you can't go anywhere in town without a comment about it, so, and I hate to say it.
and I'll be honest with you, the only person I've ever heard comment about it is yourself. I've never heard it in the street.
Yeah, I can't even go to a coffee shop without a comment, but that's okay. But you know, we approve white, not lavender, so I guess one of two things, paint it or replace it. We didn't accept lavender. And the ironic part is they use white plugs to put in the screw holes.
That's different
So-
supply chain.
They usually get them from the same, but that's all right. What's the rest of the board think?
I would agree it's a little easier to observe. I was actually driving through a different community, and I was at a traffic light for about 30, 40 seconds, and I looked to my right, and there's a brand new apartment building, and I said, holy crap, that's the same trim. And there was a big sign that says Taj Estates in the front. I forget if it was Walpole or Norwood or somewhere in that direction, but it was a Taj Estates Apartments, and it had the same trim up there. So it was noticeable to the point where I was just at a traffic light, not paying attention to anything but the stop sign, and it jumped right out. So I would say, it's certainly not, I wasn't on the board then, but it certainly doesn't seem to be the white that was promised or proposed. But, understanding that here we are now.
Would it appease the board? Because obviously driving by, you don't see the back buildings. If we were to paint as a trial the face of the building that's on 140 that everybody sees in front of the patio,
No, I would say do the whole building if you're gonna do it,
that's too
because you're in the parking lot side too.
Those are all my tenants, they're not complaining.
My
They're
comment
not-
would be that
They're not the
it is
planning board.
very obvious from the Starbucks parking lot. I was sitting there this weekend, and the building is pink, or lavender, or whatever shade you want to call it. It's not white. And I have a hard time going back against, what we agreed on. This feels like Peach House 2.0 to some degree, and we corrected that, so I think we can find a way to correct this.
That was never corrected, still the same. They did nothing. I was on the board.
Well, we asked them to correct that, didn't we?
Nothing
Was
was
I
ever
supposed
done,
to correct it?
nothing.
Maybe we revisit Peach House too.
Okay. Mark?
I know from my experience and research, most of the PVC or the vinyl trim, they recommend it being painted. It prevents mildew and all that kind of stuff. I agree, I think it should be white.
The board's feeling? Make a motion to have at least the front building painted, all the trim, white?
Well, I think it'll look strange if you do one and
Well, I
not the
think
others.
you maybe try to do it as a trial. The back building is set back enough, you may not catch it, but the one out front really stands out. Amy, what are your thoughts?
I mean,
I mean, to try to help,
I think I
the
agree with
cause.
Jen. I mean, you do the whole site. It's a site together,
Yeah.
and you want them to match. So
True.
if the board chooses that they would like it painted white, then that's what I would
Okay.
recommend. They have a partial Form H, so it'd be prior to get it established before a final Form H comes in.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna need time.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I think the consensus is painted white, as it was approved on the special permit.
Paint or, I would say paint or replace, whatever they choose to do.
Mhm.
And the paint's gonna be the option.
Whatever they,
however
I think,
they
however
choose
they
to do
choose to
it. It's a matter of
remedy
just
it.
priming it and cleaning it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right,
Okay, so
So we don't have to do anything with it? Amy? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. This would be item C, which is an 81P, an A&R for Maplegate. If I could go to Amy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the planning board actually had signed off on this 81P back in January. Unfortunately, it was held off because they were trying to wait for their approval to go through. The Mylar somehow got misplaced. It's the same exact Mylar that was submitted and already voted on, so we're just re-voting tonight to allow the chairman to sign the Mylar.
Okay. Anybody comments, questions? Jay?
Nothing on that one. That's an easy one.
Okay, so make a motion to approve to have the chair just sign the 81P for Maplegate.
second, roll call vote, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes?
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Our next item of business would be for a partial Form H for 3 and 5 Fisher Street. If I could go to Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, the planning board actually several different site plans for the site, but particularly most recently was December 4th, 2023, when they did have a tenant for 3 Fisher Street. And they're looking to try to get in a temporary occupancy permit there. They've been working and have done some site improvements. I kind of deferred to Beta's been out there, has provided a review to what point the board is comfortable on. It would just be a partial at this point because there is still more site work to be done.
Okay. If I could go to Matt from Beta. Matt, you could give us a review of your
Sure.
report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Beta did go out and visit the site Wednesday of last week. We compiled a report based upon our site observations at the time. It did contain a pretty substantial list of outstanding items. However, the construction team has been working pretty much continuously since that time, and they have addressed a significant portion of what's on Beta's list here. So I think it may make sense just to go item by item on Beta's list to give the board some clarity of where things stand. So the first thing that we noted was that there's quite a bit of construction equipment stockpiles and debris throughout the areas that they're seeking to use, which is an area that was shown by the design engineer highlighted in green, so it's only a limited section of the site. So they did clean up all that construction equipment, the rebar, everything's gone out of the areas that they want to occupy right now. Maybe a little bit of sweeping is left, but there's no safety concerns from that front.
Okay.
We did note that the accessible route from Fisher Street was under construction at the time. They modified it from one side of the driveway to the other. Apparently they couldn't make the grades based upon the original plan, so they have modified it. They did alter one of the existing connections to be ADA compliant. I have seen that they have added temporary ramps throughout the site. They haven't completed the concrete sidewalks throughout, so it does look like the accessible routes are complete at this time. There were gaps between the edge of pavement and the curb where they're putting the concrete curb block. It does look like that all has been filled in with concrete. You know, it's not a smooth surface in all the places, but it's no longer a drop-off, major tripping hazard or anything like that. There are some areas just outside of where they're seeking occupancy that it did look like there's a gap. So they may just need to take a little caution of delineating where usable space is versus construction space in those areas. They have installed the accessible signage. They have installed the curbing associated with the two islands that were missing before. This is something that isn't necessarily an action item. It was more of a note. They do have some pretty excessive curb reveal at the northwest corner of Fisher Street. I was estimating it's greater than 12 inches at this time. It'll come back down a little bit when they put in the top course pavement, but it's still going to be quite a bit higher than your typical 6-inch reveal. Just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. It's no longer part of the accessible route, but someone may step off that at some point in time. The trench drains are still only partially installed. The loading dock, I think, would be considered a non-functional area at this time. They have indicated they have temporary provisions to come in from one of the side doors for what they need for the building at this time. So I don't think that's an issue. Just a note for the board, they did eliminate some of the proposed sewer infrastructure. During the original approval process, they were considering the use of some restaurant use in there. So they had shown some grease traps or oil water separators. Restaurant is no longer proposed. There is no truck access or vehicle access to the interior of the building, so they no longer need those. So they were eliminated. We did note that they have not passed third-party testing for the sewer manholes out there. I saw the applicant when I was out there. They actually pointed out that the 3 Fisher Street building has a separate service that runs out to Fisher Street, so that sewer does not pass through any of those manholes. They did pass all of the pressure testing and manual testing of the sewer lines, and it's my understanding the contractor did verify that the sewer manholes will pass vacuum. They just haven't done the third party yet. Let's see. Site lighting has not been installed. They have the posts out there. The only thing they did install is a wall pack light that I saw at the south end of the building. The applicant can answer this, but it's my understanding that they're going to be providing temporary lighting out there. And we did note that landscaping has not been installed. They did install some trees out there, but it's not a safety concern, so that will be part of the final anyway. So I think that is about it. Oh, one last thing, catch basins. There were a couple of catch basins that they needed to raise out there, closer to the 5 Fisher Street side. I did see one raised. It looked like the other one still may be beneath the pavement, beneath the binder course, so they may need to cut that out and raise it up. But it's 3 parking spaces over there. I think it'd be pretty short work for them to raise that up to surface.
Okay.
So happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I was gonna go to Mike next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but Beta's been out there doing the inspection. Matt's obviously done a very thorough job out there, so we had nothing to add.
Okay. Before I go to the applicant, go to the board. Comments, questions?
Through the chair, I have one question. I see the overall accessible route to the new walk to the planned north side of Three Fisher has been rerouted, but are we still maintaining accessibility across that drive to the new entrances on that Three Fisher Street building that are along that same drive?
Can you go to page 11?
Yeah, page 11. It's hard because I don't have the north arrow. I guess that's facing north. So the north side of Three Fisher. Yeah, see that bottom right picture? The 3 passage doors that are, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Is there still an accessible route across that drive from the sidewalk so that those 3 doors remain accessible from across the street? Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. It's just hard to tell from the photos.
Yeah.
And I know a lot's been updated since this, so appreciate it. I also just want to say this is looking fantastic, this rehabilitation. You guys are doing a really nice job. It's nice to see the progress come along after all this time.
I agree with Jen. I think it's coming along really nicely. I just had a follow-up on the accessibility plan. The red arrow here shows a crossing further down. Is there going to be a crosswalk there as well, or is the crosswalk going to be the one that's currently striped?
It's both.
Okay, so there'll be
So-
another one replacing
Right.
the blue corner.
The
Okay.
idea is that they can cross and go to either set of accessible parking spaces.
Mhm.
They can cross back clearly, but it was to give a little bit more room with the truck access along that area. So we maintain the accessible pathway. We just changed it around a little bit to give better access to the 2 sets of handicap parking.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That makes sense. No more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I think it looks cool too. It's nice that we're restoring buildings that have been around longer than me. But as long as, you know, they've repaired or fixed things that we can still give occupancy for, you know, and do it safely.
Yep, okay.
I'm okay.
Okay. Jay?
I have nothing on this one.
Okay, good. I did just drive through there right before the meeting. It's come a long way. But I still see some safety things that I would like to see addressed. So what I'm gonna make a recommendation to is, go like 5 more days, give you 5 more days to the end of the week. I understand you're trying to get in the building. Have Beta go back out, do a review on the last parts and pieces. And, as long as I can meet with Beta, and if the board's okay with it, we'll give them a sign off for a temporary if need be. You good with that?
It's fine, Mr. Chairman, as long as we understand what those items are that are jumping
I
out
would
to
defer
you.
back to take Matt's list
Mhm.
and just weed your way back through them.
We'll work with Matt. on-
Drainage, catch basins, make sure your accessibility is the curbs, step-offs, just assuming somebody's got a little kid roaming around.
Sure.
You don't want them to fall on site.
Nope, we'll work,
Lighting, siding, signage, all the necessary things, so maybe, give you all the balance of this week, and if Matt can get out there on Friday, possibly, if you can, or Monday, and then you can just give me a quick buzz and we can, okay, if that works for you guys?
that's perfectly fine. We'll work with Matt to make sure that everything that is in his letter has been addressed to his satisfaction.
Yeah, and it's just that small section of the front door.
Right.
Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions?
It's not a
Oh, yeah, that's
public
right.
hearing.
Because we're
So,
off, that's why, we're not here the 5th. So,
right, so you're saying by July, after,
like
By
July
July 26th.
26th or Monday, and if Jay can get me, we can give him a sign off for a temporary, that's all.
okay,
Just gives him 5, 6 more days to bang out what you gotta do and get done,
We'll get it done.
and make it safe, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the partial Form H at 3 and 5 Fisher Street, but with the stipulation that Beta goes back out Friday and Monday with the chair to review with them to sign off. Do I hear a second?
second,
All in favor?
roll call vote, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I get a,
Jen,
oh, never mind. I don't know if it's gonna be. Oh, yep. Got it, we're good. Oh. See. That's.
There you go.
Yeah.
Moving on, this will go into a continued public hearing for 240 East Central Street. If I could go to Amy with Department of Planning, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last time they were in here was on May, was that, do you wanna?
Sorry. Hey, guys. Sorry.
Last time they were in here was on May 6th. I'm just going to kind of review the proposed 14 lots between 9 Lewis Street and 240 East Central Street. I'm sorry, it's not 9, it's 14 new townhomes. So a couple of the comments that were mentioned by the planning board from May 6th was to increase the sidewalk to 5 feet, provide the location for the dumpster, increase the driveway width, which has been increased. There was concerns about if they actually had frontage to comply with the side setbacks, and speaking with our building commissioner and the town attorney, using the East Central Street frontage, they do comply they've got their 20 feet on Lewis Street, and then they can have the 0 next to them at the 240 East Central Street. So it is, they do comply with that. They did provide a trip generation assessment report, which Beta has responded to. There's been an environmental evaluation report that's been provided. I do recommend that they're going to need to combine both lots. Should the board approve it or put it as a condition or prior to it. Design review has recommended the facade package that was provided.
Okay, good, thank you. I guess I'll go to Matt with Beta. Matt, if you could give us a brief overview from where we were to where we are.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've actually had a couple rounds of back and forth between the design team and Beta since the last time they were before the board. They've done some pretty significant changes to grading and such to improve the site, answered a lot of our questions, and I think overall they've addressed the most significant issues that we had. So I'll just kind of go section by section to give the board a brief overview of kind of where we stand. So we did receive a traffic memorandum from the applicant's team. Our traffic group did review that, and we are in agreement that we do not anticipate this development, residential development, to result in any significant traffic impacts to the surrounding area. Regarding lighting, there is some spillage onto the East Central Street that we anticipate would be similar to a typical roadway light. We also noted there is some minor spillage onto the residential lots at 244 East Central and 29 Lewis Street. So the spillage would either require some lighting modification or a waiver from the board to grant that minor spillage. Regarding waste collection, we're satisfied that the waste collection vehicle can navigate through the site. We understand it's their intent to use roll-away type dumpsters, or I should say garbage cans for each unit. We do note that it does appear that those would need to remain outside for collection. I don't think that they'd be able to place within the garages, considering the garages are 22 feet long. That includes the commercial space as well. Garage access, we requested some turning movements to show that vehicles could get in and out. Generally, there's no issue with that. The only note is that on Unit 1, where the driveway width is 20 feet instead of 27 feet, where they have the sidewalk, it does look like they probably have to do a multi-point turn to get in there with one of the cars, which could be done. Let's see, stormwater, big picture items have generally been addressed, and the overall concept is good. There's a handful of modeling things that we need to address to resolve, and they need to provide, they may need to provide a little more storage within the main infiltration system to address that. They also need to do some test pits over on the eastern lot. We've just requested for the applicant's team to give the board a little more clarification why those can't be done at this time. They indicated they couldn't do them at this time, so it might be insightful for the board to hear why. And just one additional consideration for the board. They are proposing the use of Cape Cod berm at the driveway exit onto Lewis Street. There is Cape Cod berm on Lewis Street now. They are proposing the use of vertical curb throughout their site.
Okay, good, thank you. I guess before I go to the applicant and the board, Mike, DPW?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing I just want to point out in the drainage design plans I was looking at, they do still call out the HDPE pipe for some of the drain pipes on the site. They do have the infiltration system, usually it's a manifold or two, but they, looks like they have HDPE pipe for all the manhole to catch basin connections too, so it's something if they want to do that, they might want to ask for a waiver for that from the board. I'll leave that up to the board. In regards to the, Matt had mentioned the Cape Cod berm going onto Lewis Street. Usually at the radius where it comes into the right-of-way, we'd like to see granite just for the radius. They're blending into the existing berm that's on Lewis Street, but then once you're on their site, they can blend into their existing, what they have proposed there. But just for within the right-of-way, we'd like to see granite.
Okay, good. Before I go to the board, I'll go to the applicants. If you guys wanna just give us a brief overview from where we were to some of the changes that were made and some of the improvements and what your agenda is moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Richard Cornetta, representing the applicant, and I'm joined here with Carlos Ferreira, who is our site design engineer. I want to start off by thanking the board. I think the last time we were before you folks was a couple of months, and so I think Amy did a refresh on our project, but I think one of the key features that is different today than it was a couple of months ago was the configuration of Building A. Building A is the building that runs along the eastern boundary line of the property along Lewis Street. At the time, you may recall, there was some conversation back and forth with the board. We had 6 driveways that were providing direct access to Lewis Street. And I think in addition, there was a letter from, I think, a member of the Master Plan Committee, I think Gino Carlucci had weighed in. There was some concern about the cars in these units accessing Lewis Street from these driveways. And so we went back, and that's why it's taken us a little bit to get back before you, because we have switched the Building A, we've swapped it around, so now that, as you requested, I guess we'll call it the front facade of the building, really where the garages are acclimated, now face and oppose Building B. And in doing that, we were able to make a few changes to the site, not the least of which was that we eliminated those 6 driveways on Lewis Street, which allowed us to create a pretty significant green area, green space area that we did not show on the previous plan, which also gives us the option to provide maybe some nice outdoor space to those units from Building A, and also some additional needed snow storage that we discussed. Also, it allowed us to, or it required us to increase the width of the access drive aisle that runs between the 2 buildings. We went from 20 feet to 27 feet. Matt correctly pointed out, if you look at the plan, Building A is a bit, that's where the 20 feet width is, but as you get and approach Unit 2 on Building B, the driveway expands to a 27-foot width. And we've shrunk Building B a bit, or pulled it back because we wanted to maintain the 20-foot distance on the southern boundary. As the board may recall, the southern boundary, the property bordering it is a residential district. And so according to the bylaw, we wanted to maintain the integrity of that distance so that we fully comply. Some of the additional, I guess, comments would be that there was some conversation about the commercial space. We'd originally proposed about 450 square feet of commercial space as it fronts East Central Street. We've expanded that. The footprint is still the same, but we have we're creating a 2-floor, so it will give us an opportunity for about 800 square feet thereabouts, which I think is, to the board's point, it's much more substantial when you start talking about mixed use. And it is also entirely, the frontage of this is entirely on East Central Street. So as you go by, you know, as you look at the project, you are going to see that commercial space. We're not creating a commercial space that's going to be buried behind residential space. So I think that certainly meets the board's concern on that topic. As mentioned, we did submit an updated stormwater management report. I think we've addressed some of the bigger issues, but I think Carlos and Matt may, you know, if we continue the meeting, they may be able to really rough out the edges on that. We've also gotten, as mentioned, the trip generation assessment from Vanessa. I believe the conclusion of that report is that there are no significant impacts that would be created in both vehicle trips, vehicle travel, queuing, or delays in and around the site, which includes not just East Central Street, but also the Lewis Street access point. Because as you recall, this is a one-way drive coming in from East Central, exiting onto Lewis. And I believe if you take a look at the report, they do mention how many cars, vehicle trips they anticipate taking down Lewis and how many would go to East Central. But in either case, both during the average morning peak as well as the evening peak, there is no significant impact from what would be developed to what the current use is as a single-family home, as well as I think the daycare is also was a use that was formerly at this location. Let's see. Oh, and I should mention, I guess, lastly, this is for Jen, the northern facade of the building. I think when we first presented you, it was kind of a blank slate, and it did have kind of not an appealing look. So they've redesigned that on Building A as it fronts East Central Street. So it added a few windows. I think it was a real positive change. Thank you for that comment. And aside from that, I think that's a summary of our changes. And again, we appreciate the board's patience. It was a pretty substantial change when we flipped the building to get everything caught up. We have Carlos here, more than willing to address any specific concerns that you might have. Oh, I should mention, there was some talk about the garbage receptacles. It is going to be a private service, just like in Franklin with the cans, putting them out. We do anticipate that they will be able, even though it's a tight, that the residences will be bringing the cans inside their garages. We're more than happy to, we were looking at it today, creating maybe a little fenced-in area by the commercial. So because if you look at the western boundary, there is some room on the western boundary behind the commercial building. We can put a fence there that would hide the canister and then only be brought out during pickup days. So it might make the facade more attractive. I think the concern is you don't want all these cans sitting around. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. I guess I'll go to the board. Comments, questions? What do you do, Chris?
Thanks. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback on increasing the commercial space. I think that's a big win for the project, just being more appropriate for the commercial user. On the rendering, the third floor space, then what is your vision for that? Since the commercial's only 2, is that a community room or?
There's no, I mean, we're only gonna do like one more floor. The thing is that if we didn't put windows over there, it will look like strange.
Okay.
So it's probably gonna be like a double ceiling on the second floor.
Okay.
Cathedral.
Cathedral.
Okay, got it. And is there, so in Richie, you were saying the dumpster behind the commercial, is there a way for the truck to get back there and pull it out with the curbing? Like, how does that work?
It would actually be the commercial tenant would need to physically pull
Got
it
it,
out.
so that would be their storage for trash.
It's
Understood.
still gonna have a very residential
Yep.
appeal or look.
Okay. No, I appreciate the changes to the building and the change to the facade that's facing East Central. It's an improvement. And I was one of the ones that was okay with the other orientation. I think this looks just as fine in keeping the garages on Lewis Street, but I think this orientation works just as well for me, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Jen?
I think this is a huge improvement to the site. Taking all the garages and having them inward so that what you see just from a safety standpoint for the frontage on, I guess, side lot and frontage aren't impacted as much from residences going in and out, and that stays within the site. That's ideal. I guess one question is with the 27-foot drive aisle, I understand that you're trying to control the entries and the exits, but within the site itself, will residents have the ability to go in either direction for whatever reason, even if they can't, we don't want them exiting onto
No.
140, but no.
Yeah, no, it's a one-way. It has to be a one-way.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's tight. Overall, I think this is a huge improvement. From a design perspective, has the updated design to the building, particularly this northeast corner, been presented to the Design Review Commission?
Yeah, it will look, so we have like a facade in here that faces Lewis Street, that would be like the same facade that faces the parking lot to 230 Street, so they also like enhanced and doesn't look like a back of a building. Because we have, the format that we have a door that like if this people on Lewis Street, they can access from Lewis Street into it. In the way that we have in here also, there will be like a walkway along the back of the building that people can enter from both sides, instead of like coming from the driveway side.
Sure. Will the people on the Lewis Street and those units, are they going to have private patios, or is that going to be a shared yard with shared amenities? What is the use of that green open space going to be?
We anticipate that they're gonna be private yard spaces for each of those units.
So will you be providing plantings or any sort of screening or privacy along the Lewis Street edge?
Yes, there is on the landscaping plan, we show like hedges along the whole Lewis Street side on C105,
What is it, C105?
yeah. And we put like some trees and stuff along.
Oh,
the-
okay, so there, I guess I didn't see the legend on that. Or couldn't quite tell what those plantings were because of the symbols.
Yeah, I see
They
you
don't
have
look like hedges.
arborvitae's, but yeah, is that just a low growth, or is that gonna be something that's gonna create a nice buffer? Three
I mean,
feet
we-
tall, or is it gonna be just 18 inches and that's the end of it?
We provide like this Chinese junipers, so I believe
Yeah,
that they
Chinese
will-
juniper,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think that,
They're
57.
ground cover,
yeah.
so they're low, so that the conceptual drawing has like almost a hedge, but the juniper that is on your landscape plan are low growing.
It's ground cover.
ground
Right,
cover.
and then there's 4 arborvitae's being shown. Anyway, I guess I would just ask that you revisit the landscaping a bit to really consider, show us how you envision that now new kind of open space being utilized and what that experience is from the Lewis Street side. Are, I have a lot of questions through the chair. Are all air conditioning, what is the HVAC system for these units? Are all condensers and everything gonna be concealed?
We plan to do all heat pump systems, so
Okay.
the whole place is gonna be electric.
Great.
Uh,
Is there solar on the roof?
We didn't provide anything for solar on the building. I don't think like we have like the greatest orientation for roof on it. But the condensers, we were planning to have them like in other projects. I mean, because the condensers for heat pumps, they're very small. They're smaller than conventional heat pumps, and they're a lot more silent on it. We were gonna mount them on the wall of the building, on the bottom part of it.
So we're not, just want to make sure that all of that is sort of thought through and concealed, and as anything that's visible on the facade as a part of the overall architecture. So what you don't want to see is all of these units and all the piping sort of along as
No,
where it looks like an afterthought versus being
No,
something that's integrated.
We've been thinking on it because there's multiple projects that we're working on that. We're gonna conceal that into the wall, so you're gonna see a louver similar to the wall packs that you see over on 230 Eastern Century. So like you see the louvers for like, those are all the condenser systems for the apartments. So we're gonna have something similar to here. So you're just gonna see like a louver against the wall, and the condenser will be behind of it.
Okay, I just think when we're showing openings, and you know,
Yes.
all we're showing right now is windows, punched openings, not seeing sort of any of those louvers or vents or how those are integrated with all the trim and the, as a part of the overall architecture. Would be good to see that. I appreciate the attempt to address the architecture on the northeast side of the commercial corner of the building. I'm
It shows the same-
wondering why the
the other side too.
yeah I think the south is fine. The easier comment is the north side of building whatever the one is on the east is still a pretty prominent facade, even though right now I know it's set back from East Central Street. It might be nice to have a little bit more trim or architectural character on that north facade of that smaller building. The commercial facing portion of the building, what is the intent of the big black, it looks,
We just like to form like some sort of band around it and create like volume.
and then the
to
two
buil-
different,
Into the two different colors.
I'm just wondering if that could maybe be tweaked a little bit more to be more in the character of the rest of the building, and if there's gonna be differentiation between color or window expression, that it's more closely tied to where the commercial is happening. Right now it feels a little arbitrary. But if this is going in front of design review, I'll let them get into specifics. I very significantly appreciate the, you addressing, you know, what that experience is on 140 and having that commercial be expressed a bit differently, or at least be noticeable against the rest of the residential. Overall, I think this is a great scale project for the site, and I appreciate the time that you've taken to address our comments. Thank you.
Anybody? Thank you. All right, I'll go. Jay?
Sorry about that, I had a needy customer. So I want to lead with, I appreciate the revisions to the plan. I think you're switching the driveways around on Lewis Street is going to pay a lot of dividends, both in terms of aesthetics and in terms of drainage. I guess the only other bit that I had was kind of just to echo what Mike said about putting granite curb on the driveway entrance on Lewis Street. I think you're really going to see that work out positively for you as well, just from the snow and ice removal aspect of things. If you put, you know, a sloped HMA edging on the radius like that, it's going to get chewed up within a winter or two. So granite is definitely the way to go there. And that's all I really got. I think that, you know, saying what Jen said, I think that everything works well with the site. I'm excited to see that there's 2-car garages and we're not trying to go with a, you know, an under parking site. So that's about all I got.
Thank you, Jay. Chris, you got one more?
Oh, yeah, just through you, Mr. Chair, and if it's, get the board's opinion, I guess, instead of the shrubbery along Lewis, like a white fence instead, it's gonna be easier than the homeowners, or I'm sorry, is this condos or apartments? I forget. Condos. So the homeowners can pick their own vegetation afterwards, but at least the fence is there permanently, and it's an HOA issue. That way it's not, you know, these are too thin, whatever, and it provides the coverage against Lewis. Just a thought. I don't know.
Just gotta bear in mind that building's rather close to the edge of the road, plowing, it's gonna get wiped out by snow plows going down the street.
Mhm.
So if anything, it'd have to be set back, that's why I think the greenscape could be better.
Okay.
Maybe it's a combination. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah,
setback from the
maybe.
street before you hit a fence.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Yeah.
It's,
He
it's
also
fairly,
has some of that area listed as snow storage, so if there's a
yeah,
fence
well,
there,
yeah, the snow storage is on is on the rhododendrons.
several areas.
Okay.
Good.
Just a thought.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I don't have much more than what the board said. We do appreciate, I still have reservations about
That's
the
snow
one-way.
storage, that's snow storage.
I really would love to see this being two-way, because if somebody lives in that building and they come down Crocker Ave, they gotta go down Crocker to Lewis, to take a left onto 140, to left into the site. I just don't think that's good traffic pattern. I would love to see this to be two-way.
Our concern, Mr. Chair, is that the proximity to Lewis Street is only about 80 feet.
It's bad
So you're
enough
gonna have-
as it is backing up. Now you're gonna have a car trying to turn left and do a quick turn left.
Well, nobody's gonna back up, I don't think, but I think if you
No,
have two-way.
Left. I mean, you're gonna create traffic bog at that intersection. If somebody's trying to take a left onto 140, then take a quick left into the site.
Well, there's 350 feet to do that, as opposed to 80 feet coming out of that entrance, which could create a conflict on the same side of the street.
Try
That's
pulling-
my only, that's my.
Try pulling out of there on a regular day, though. I'm just not a big fan of that one myself.
Well, we've run this through our traffic and consultants, and what we're getting back is this, the current design is the superior.
Man, is that doable? 27 feet in between the buildings? If we give a waiver to create a two-way?
Well, I think 27 feet would be wider than many roadways
Yeah.
for two-way traffic, but it also tapers down to 20 feet with a sidewalk at one point in time, so.
It just,
Through the chair, sorry, are you suggesting that to at least allow residents to enter from the Lewis Street side?
if
So that
somebody-
way they don't, like if someone's coming from that direction, they don't have
move
to,
back up
they don't have to
around,
take
go
a
back
left
into
onto
140.
140 to then take a left onto their site.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chair, just one comment on that. So with the way it's currently laid out with the access road going out to Lewis Street there is only 18 feet wide, so that has to be changed. So and the 27 feet would be wide enough for, I mean, a minimum road width is typically about 24 as we usually do, but with the turns in and out of the garage, that may be an issue. I haven't looked at that closely, but I'm just saying two-way may be an issue, but it's something
Yeah,
to
it's
look
just,
at.
you know, pulling out of Lewis Street, taking a left, and then having to take another quick left, you know. It's gonna be tough trying to get in and out of that site, that's all.
Coming from that,
Oh,
coming
I
from
see
the,
what you're
Coming from
the
Crocker
east,
and
absolutely. I
Lewis,
think
yeah.
anybody would probably be
If
going
you can
that
give them
way.
the opportunity to get on the left side, it'll ease traffic there. I mean, you have, what, 50-plus cars in and out of there daily? I think if that's something we could look at.
We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, okay, and I can't remember, what do you have for units? I know there's one affordable, and were they 1, 2, or 3
13,
bedrooms?
14 units, 3-bedroom units, one affordable.
Okay, so do you
They
have
all the
anything
same.
set up for like, kids to get picked up for school buses and whatnot, like a little pickup station?
Well,
We've
I
done
know,
that in the past
It'll be
with
on the
these-
main road.
yeah.
Is that on the main road?
Yeah, they won't, the bus won't drive from
No,
there.
but just off to the side, so the kids aren't sitting on the main street, there's like a.
Yeah, it'll be up to the bus department, but most
Okay.
likely,
Like we did
probably
on
on
Pond
Lewis,
Street.
if they make it,
Yeah.
if they go through Lewis already, they'll probably be picking them up right on Lewis. at
Just,
the end of the
just thinking
driveway.
so the kids aren't hanging out on 140,
Yeah.
waiting to get picked up.
Usually the bus pickup is on corner Lewis and.
Okay, just to make
Yeah.
sure they're safe, that's all. Did you say the commercial space? I thought when we last spoke, we were gonna keep the commercial space around 1,000 square feet. Is that, did I miss?
No, I don't
I
think we
thought
ever
were at
committed to
1,000 or
1,000.
thereabouts.
You just asked if we'd increase it, and,
Okay.
and we have, we've doubled it.
Okay. What about the dumpster for the commercial space? Where's,
No, we're gonna do private trash
do
for
private
that,
trash
yeah,
with that?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then, turning in and out of that first unit, I guess they're just gonna have to manhandle it without wiping out the corners of the garage, I guess. Your snow storage, you got 2 spots and it's all landing on your landscape. I think you should look at that. You're dumping all your snow storage on your rhododendrons on the end. And then to Matt's notes, I think you definitely wanna get your perk test done for all your drainage, because if you have to do any changes, you wanna make sure all the drainage is 100% before you come back, in case there's any changes. We've done this in the past, and unfortunately, substantial changes have happened, so I'd say get your perk test done.
We excavated the property, and just like recently that, the property was vacated, it was all the storage for what's happening over in 230 was on the property. So we might be able to complete that, next week. But, I mean, from all the excavation that happened from the drive, because I did the soil testing also on driveway of like 230 East Central Street, and all the digging that we did in here, this is like beautiful sand going like all the way almost like 15 feet.
So just do a couple quick tests, and that way there, I know Matt said you wanted to change some of the drainage from 12 inch to 24, so just make sure all that's done, so you're not coming back for amendments later, okay? What else? That's kind of all I had. A lot of people hit a lot of stuff, so. What's that? Yeah. Anybody in the public have any questions or comments? No? See anybody?
Hand up online. Kobe. Kobe, go for it, Kobe.
Yeah, may as well. I try to find the projects that excite me and lend my support. This would be one of them. Kudos to the board and the applicant for making and then following through on the suggested changes. I think by reducing the curb cuts on Lewis Street, we greatly improved the walkability of that area, and by increasing the commercial space, we actually make that a viable space to contribute to our downtown. So excited by the changes, excited by the project, and appreciate planning board's continued support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, anybody else? So, I'm gonna make a motion to continue, Amy.
Well, the next available meeting's August 19th, if that works.
You think you'll have enough time to get everything resolved? Does that give Matt enough time to,
I know, or to
Review?
respond, or it would be September 9th.
why don't we go September 9th, and that way there, Matt's got time, so we can try to wrap this up with that being said. So I make a motion to continue to September 9th. Do I hear a second?
Second, roll call vote. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Our next item of business would be a continuation for 6 Forge Parkway. If I could go to Amy for a quick review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, last time they were in front of us, was May 6th, so they are proposing a 36,000 square house manufacturing and warehouse building. A couple concerns that the board had was to provide additional lighting at the entrance site. The retaining wall details, as well as pictures of the facade and how it blends in with the area, which we do not have at this time. I know, I think a lot of the site improvements have been met, except for the fact of the trucks entering and maneuvering the site, which I know has been a concern with the planning board. Should the board make a decision at any time, they've got some special conditions that Beta will observe the construction of the retaining wall, limited site plan required for each tenant, and they do have a waiver request for the use of reinforced concrete pipe.
Okay, good. Thank you, Amy. I'll go to Matt or Beta. Matt, if you could chime in for us, please, on
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we did review the most recent submission of the project, and I think from our perspective, it's really down to two remaining issues for discussion. The first would be the site access. So they have made some modifications to the driveway entrance, including providing a raised island on one side that can accommodate trucks entering the site. However, they provided some movements for trucks exiting the site. And there still seem to be some issues that need to be resolved with the vehicles either encroaching across their site driveway or into the opposing lanes out on Forge Parkway. We did have some conversations with the design engineer, and they've provided some additional sketches for consideration, but our traffic group is gonna need some more time to take a look at those to see how those fare. It's my understanding that they don't have a tenant set up for the site yet, so they really can't guarantee what size truck that they'd be at the facility, and I think they want to leave that open for one of the bigger design vehicles, so that still needs to be worked through. The other topic is stormwater. They did go out there and do some additional test pits throughout the site, but we do need to get some confirmation on some of the elevations out there. There's been some confusion about, where the test pits are depicted on the site versus the elevations given, and really they're pretty close to the limits of providing adequate separation to the groundwater table. So the engineer has indicated they're gonna go out there and survey those locations where the test pits were conducted, so we have solid data on what the groundwater elevations are gonna be.
Thank you, Matt. I'll go to Mike with DPW. Mike, any comments?
Thank you, Mr.
on where
Chairman.
we're at?
Not much to add on what Matt had there, but I did note one thing. I saw there was a comment relative to the cobblestone apron at the roadway, and the question whether that was impervious or not, and based on the detail as shown there, I think it might be considered more impervious than pervious there. So if they wanted you consider that to be pervious and not really be attributed to the stormwater, you'd probably come up with a better detail to actually show that where how the water can actually infiltrate through there with some storage area underneath. That'd be one concern.
Good, thank you. Before I go to the board, I'll go to the applicant. If you just want to introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ed Buchanan on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined tonight by Joe Cohegan from Donegal LLC, Eben Tormey as well, and with us via Zoom is Mike Malinowski from Allen and Major. Thank you to Beta for summarizing those final few issues. If I may, through you, Mr. Chairman, just ask Mike Malinowski to maybe comment on the discussions he's had with Beta, and we certainly want to make sure we cover all those bases.
Okay, and then we'll go to the board.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to try to, if I can, share. Oh, there.
Tyler, can you give him access to share screen, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, co-host now.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Tyler. Good evening, everyone. Michael Malinowski from Allen and Major Associates. As Matt from Beta had indicated, we've had some discussions with their group relative to traffic movements on the site. I'll sort of expand this. So what we've provided is ingress and egress for two vehicles, typically, which would be seen at an industrial or light manufacturing facility, the WB40 and the WB67. As Matt and Amy had indicated, we do not have a tenant, so we're trying to keep our options open. As you can see, we've had some discussions back and forth relative to sort of the configuration of the driveway. We have proposed to widen the driveway along the left side of the drive, as well as provide a sort of rumble strip on this corner. That's more to do with being able to maintain drainage. As part of our discussions with Beta earlier this week, we have provided a painted island in the middle. And as you can see, This is a WB40 exiting the site. So they do maintain their drive. They do encroach into the painted island, but we have approximately 11.5 feet of clear area of pavement for additional vehicles entering. Primarily would be vehicles entering in this location to the hotel or employees entering the building. We have provided an ingress for WB40, showing that they can maneuver through the break in the existing island on Forge Parkway, traversing the driveway. They do encroach into the white painted island, but they are still maintaining a 12-foot clear area for anybody exiting the site, either the hotel or the industrial building.
Could you do me a favor, just explain to everybody
Yes.
what a WB40 is, where some don't know?
All right, so WB40 is a box trailer with a approximately 33-foot trailer on it. So if you have ever seen like a Cisco delivery truck or a large UPS truck, that is the size of that. It's not the traditional like sleeper cab trailer. So it's a slightly smaller truck and trailer. As you can see, we do have part of the concern of the board before was the maneuverability into the loading docks at the rear of the building. We have increased the sort of bulb of pavement in this area and can show that you can do a complete circle in this area and then back into the loading dock positions. So that's the upper ones, and then these are the lower ones where they can pull up and back in. The bigger concern is what is a WB67. So that is a 53-foot box with a 28-foot trailer. Typically that would be an extended sleeper. Those are the over-the-road haulers. Part of the cobbled area in the front here is to accommodate those movements. This is shown entering from the east from within Forge Parkway. We feel that this is a very unlikely scenario due to the proximity of 140. The majority of the traffic for trucks would be coming from the west, as shown in this direction. So we have a WB67 entering the site. There is some cross into the painted island and over the cobbles, but it still maintains a 12-foot clear access for anybody that may be exiting the hotel. And then similarly, if a WB67 comes out from the facility, you can see that he stays within his 12-foot aisle, maintains access on this side over the property line, heads out towards 140. Additionally, if he should head farther into Forge Parkway, shown this direction, part of what we're proposing to do is to relocate a light pole that's on the corner of this island back a little bit, as well as provide some cobbling on the corner of this. By doing that, we feel that this movement is very unlikely. The vast majority of these drivers are actually going to want to head out to 140 as opposed to heading into Forge Parkway. But should they mistakenly end up in this direction, we do have the ability to have them exit the site and not cause any impedance of anybody that may be coming in. Relative to the drainage, we do have a large infiltration system that's going in the back of the facility, collects water, discharges to the east corner of the property. That's where the vast majority of the drainage goes now. As Matt had indicated, we did have some additional test pits that were done. There was some confusion as to how those were placed or located and what the elevations of those actually are. So we have indicated that we will send our survey crews out there to field verify exactly where those are, and sort of nail that down so that we can get an accurate depiction of where the seasonal high water is in that area. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll go to Jen first.
Thanks. Through the chair, it appears that to widen the roadway, you're proposing moving the sidewalk that connects the hotel pedestrian way to the public sidewalk. But it looks like you're proposing that that be pavement where the existing is concrete. I would ask that you replace it in kind with concrete and make sure that certainly that the public sidewalk remain concrete to match existing all the way through.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Yep.
Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you approached the hotel site owner about reconfiguring the entire entryway to get rid of the hard left turn kind of loop coming out into the roadway and see if there's a way to straighten that out so it's less of a nasty turn coming out of the site? Is that a conversation that's been broached at all?
We have been in contact with the hotel owner generally, not about that question specifically. We would be happy to do so. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I just think it maybe eases a lot of these in and out concerns, types of trucks restricting your tenancy, which is just going to hurt your feasibility in the future, I think. So that'd just be one option. And then the other thing I know that Jen had mentioned and we are, I guess, still waiting for just the vertical rendering from 140, so we can kind of see what that box might look like from that side, where right now it's tree coverage, and now all of a sudden I was driving down 291 the other day, and you come over the top of the hill going into just past Cumberland, and there's a giant Amazon box sitting on the top of the hill, and that's all you can see. So I think, obviously, I don't think this is an Amazon building, but that type of just giant facade out in the middle of trees is a little off-putting. So just making sure we have an understanding of what that might look like. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have is, because everybody kind of touched on everything, any correspondence from the fire department? Are they okay with the entry? Is that, I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen any letter from them. We definitely like to defer to them, make sure they're all set as well.
That's all I have.
Okay. Jay?
Do you mind, and I know this is trying to kind of read the future, but like, are we really set on WB 67 is what this site is going to need? Is there a way around that truck size, or is that just your best bet to achieve, the most, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but like the best tenancy for the site, if you will.
Marketable, you mean?
Yeah, thanks. I'm over here running on new dad sleep, so sorry.
It certainly provides the most flexibility. And one thing of note of those trucks of that size is typically they're not making stops delivery. They're coming, they're dumping, and they're leaving. So those movements in and out of 140 for that size truck are actually very clean. It's when you have the 1 in a million where they're either coming down from the top of the hill or they want to go up the top of the hill, which would be rare. In other words, they wouldn't come in, do a stop there, and then go further in. So we do want to keep that flexibility, and for those trucks, it's really in and out on 140, which is why that's that still we think really does work for the site.
And there's no appetite to try to deal with the grading to what would be planned right up the driveway and straighten that out a little bit. I know it's not planned right, the other side. Yeah,
This
over
one?
there. I know it's super steep in there.
It is, and we've also got we've got some big drain structures. So this is actually a treatment device here that collects the water, goes across. We also have an electric vault that's here that feeds and continues up. So I'm pushing out this as much as I can on this edge without getting into all of this other structures.
Yeah, that was
So-
really my only two thoughts, to try to get around the turning movements, you know. Do we need this truck, or can we tweak that somehow? But I know that's a lot of constraints over there.
Yeah, I got a lot of constraints on this side. I've also got quite a bit on this side as well. I mean, we've got hotel signs, we've got fully established trees on this side, and I've got electrical and communication vaults over here. I've pushed left and right of the existing driveway as much as I can, and still trying to not get into significant impacts to existing substructure. And
I think that
like
just made the
Ted had
decision on
mentioned,
what kind of truck to get
the
moved
likelihood
to.
of the 67s, this is a worst case scenario, but we're just trying to keep our options open so that should a tenant come in and need one of these during their course of operations, that it can be fitted. It's more likely that the WB-40s are going to be the vehicle of choice out here.
And I think that might be the choice for the tenants that are in the building. The problem is the tenants are possibly also receiving deliveries from others, and they may not be able,
That's
to
correct.
control that.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
the problem, yeah.
So preparing for the worst, I think, is probably the best.
So I guess, I'm okay with the rest of the site. I think you've tweaked it far enough. We'll just get a cross-cut visual from the street. I think the main entrance is definitely gonna have to be everywhere. Whether you move utilities, and like Chris was saying, left side of the site, you can take that whole left side, open it up, take the trees out, open up that whole throat. What's the width of the throat from curb to curb at that entrance? You got 12, 11 and a half, what's that rumble strip?
So this is like 12 feet through here and
Okay, so
another
you got like
10.
34 feet or so.
That's 140. Hold on one second, I'll tell you right off.
So it's still not a ton of space to get it over the road or in there. And those guys aren't gentle when they pull in.
No, they're
And
not.
signage won't stop them, and trees won't stop them.
The signage will
So
stop
we
at the
got
tires.
about
The signage
47
are
feet.
targets, actually. Yeah. That's curb to curb,
That's curb to curb.
so you're gonna have to look at an option of taking more of the right-hand side of the site or the left-hand side of the site to open it up. I don't think you have much option, because our big fear is that you have a hotel there with, you could have children in there, elders, everybody coming and going, and we can't have trailers taking out the front end of a car or somebody leaving there, so you gotta make sure.
Well, and in this scenario, they don't. So we have a 12-foot drive and we have a painted island, and then we have another 11.5 foot of clear that's open for vehicles coming in. So if somebody happens to come in and they're sitting here, there's plenty of room on this side for a trailer to exit.
Okay, but entering
Okay.
is the problem.
Yeah, entering is the same way, sir.
Yeah. But not on the right-hand side, coming in from within the park, because I do a lot of work up in that park, and the trucks
They-
do go from building to
they do.
building.
So
if
I
he
have
has to
12 feet
take
of
a
clear.
right- Yeah,
So if they come in from Forge Parkway, they come in and they take the painted island and part of the rumble strip, but there's still a 12-foot aisle that's clear for anybody that may be coming out of the hotel. So currently our design shows that we have adequate clearance for folks exiting aside from truck movements.
And if I,
it all works on plan, unfortunately, but when you get an over-the-road,
Sure, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I know Beta did mention that their traffic folks hadn't had the chance to review.
I just wanna stress the point, I think you're all good with everything but the main entrance. And I
right.
think if Beta can weigh in and you guys can open up the throat of that a little bit more, let's have less obstacles for a truck to get in. What we don't want is for that truck to continue down to 140 and somehow wanna turn around. That's my biggest fear, and they will do that.
I don't just want to like say everything else is smooth sailing, because through what Chris was hitting on, I think that facade along 140 is
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
yeah. So
I mean,
I don't want to, because
Functionality of the.
sure,
of the
sure,
site
sure,
is what I
safety
mean.
wise, but
Yeah.
just, when you mentioned that, Chris, I just circled back on the site section that you showed, and it happened to be the one that maintained the most amount of vegetation, to the new building, and wasn't the site section taken from the part of the site that eliminates the most amount of vegetation towards the west. I think we have a very prominent facade here, sitting at least 40 feet above street grade, to the top of the building, at least from what I could see in the site section. And so I want to make sure that everyone understands what
So,
that is
On
before.
that cross-section, could you give us a cut from the 140 elevation?
Yeah, well, I
So
want
we
to see
can
the
get-
140
yeah, so-
elevation,
Yeah,
but
so we can get it before.
another section running north-south, but justified to the west side of the building. And the majority of the trees, at least from what I'm seeing on Google Earth, are deciduous trees. So my fear is that with how close this is getting to 140, how much you're building up the hill and then sitting the building atop, it's going to be extremely, extremely visible. And so we just want to have an understanding of what the character of that facade is, what it looks like as you're driving down 140. So that's all.
You know, nothing for nothing, but question for Mike. Could a curb cut come off of 140 to enter this site?
That would be state highway. I'm not sure if they would allow that. That would be up to the MSDOT though.
Yeah,
that
and,
would
and I don't believe
clarify-
that they would where that is, because that's part of their decel lane or
Yeah.
acceleration
Yeah,
coming
just-
on to
might be
140 is right there.
That might be
I know with the
restricted
bridge
access.
and everything, I was just, and then you have the light right
Yeah.
down the street. I'm just thinking out loud, if it wasn't thought of, maybe it's just something to take a peek at, that's all.
Only
It
thing,
may help alleviate some of this.
only possible thing, and I'm not sure if it would work rating wise or not, is to create a separate entrance for the hotel and a separate entrance for this parcel.
I was
altogether.
kinda
Mhm.
thinking that,
That'd be
yeah,
the only thing I can think of.
I was kinda thinking the same thing when Chris brought it up with the front entrance. Is there a way to reroute the hotel's entrance, and then you have a lot more to work with?
It's
And you-
something they would have to evaluate. I couldn't
So
answer
maybe just, I would
We'll
take
have
a, take a
com-
peek at a couple different
We'll have a
scenarios.
conversation with the
Yeah,
hotel.
I mean,
Sure.
we gotta make it safe, that's all.
Understood.
And that's the most important thing.
It's a tough site. I mean, we'd love
Yeah.
to see this happen. You know, we want to see it happen. We just want to make sure it's done the right way.
And I don't think you wanna limit it just to 32 footers either, cause you know, that'll never happen. Okay. So, time-wise, what do you think, Amy?
Either August 19th or September 9th.
Well, you're gonna do some legwork, you think, and what else we have on for the night?
Just the 240 East Central Street.
Alright, so you wanna go September 9th? It gives you guys a little time to get in touch with the hotel.
The 9th is fine, Mr.
The
Chairman.
9th, and then it gives you a little bit of time to go with the hotel, maybe have a conversation with them and
Yep.
try to do some of
Yep.
that. Okay. Alright, so I make a motion to continue 6 Forge Parkway till September 9th. Do I have a second?
Second, roll call. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can we take a 5-minute recess? I can get some water.
Take a 5-minute
Or
recess?
2 minutes, I don't care.
Alright, 2-minute recess. back on?
Recording in progress.
Okay. This will be, our next item, this will be an actual continuation of a public hearing for 19 Dean Ave. And I'm not gonna look to the board for a lot of comments or questions. I just want the applicant to give us a brief overview of where you are, what you're proposing. This is just gonna be an ongoing thing for a little bit, but at least give us an update where your
Sure.
thoughts are.
Great, thank you.
And we can go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Cannon on behalf of the applicant. David Durf, the manager of the applicant, is with me tonight. And David was before the board in the spring, I believe, with an idea for redevelopment of 19 Dean, right in downtown. You know, it's sort of in desperate need for redevelopment for a long time. Got a lot of feedback from the board as to some things that the board would like to see there. Listened, took those notes, and tonight he has a vision, sort of implementing what he understood the comments to be last time, and he'd like to sort of share that with the board to sort of, before he invests too heavily in something, get, you know, the feedback from the board so he can, you know, dedicate his resources in a manner that's gonna be consistent with the way the board would like to see this site developed as well.
Yeah, and, go ahead, Amy.
Oh, no, I just want Tyler to, give me, sharing rights.
Yeah, so
Co-host.
he's prepared a PowerPoint presentation that he'd like to take you through.
So 5 of you have co-host permissions. I think you should have sharing rights.
Thank you. Now I gotta get all this stuff off my screen. All set?
I'm ready.
You're up.
Yep, so the Dave Jerf, owner applicant, site's 19 Dean Ave. We were before you April 8th. Got a lot of feedback on activating the commercial store, having more commercial storefronts rather than parking garages. So we did a lot of work. We talked to as many people who would listen, reached out to everyone basically in town hall. So what we have is an updated concept. We're coming today with an updated concept of a mixed-use residential, non-residential.
Where do you want me to stop?
Yeah, you could, if you want to talk about the existing condition, the building's vacant. It's in desperate need of repair and redevelopment. It's obviously downtown commercial zoning. The existing footprint covers basically almost the whole lot, the whole site. You can keep going. All the feedback we got on the April 8th meeting, we feel like we've put into this new concept. It aligns. The last 6 months, all I've done is listen to the master plan and the Franklin's business guide. I think the board should support something like this. So the kicker is that we can't do commercial storefronts and parking. It's one or the other. We came with parking, the board didn't like it. This concept is to activate all the commercial storefronts at grade and then residential above. So we're proposing 6 to 8 units, no parking. We've put, if you, that's the timeline.
Just let me know when you want
All
me
right,
to
yeah.
slide.
This is a project timeline. We've been at it for a while. All right, you can continue.
Keep going.
Yep. Those are some precedents as we came up with as the last design was not appealing to the board. So we feel those are more in line. You can keep going. So this is the proposed site plan. We have about 1,500 square feet of commercial storefronts. We're thinking in fitness or like a Birchwood type thing in one of the spaces. And then the trash is in that back southeast corner. We have no access to the site as is, so it's a really difficult site. Reached out to, again, as many people as we could. Our right-of-way is Dean Ave, but it was safety concerns, having parking or drive access into off Dean Avenue. So the only other way, technically, if we're trying to do commercial storefronts, is off the town lot, which is 7 spaces, and there's a parking exhibit on the next one, I believe. Oh yeah, so this site is the only site in downtown commercial that I could find that's pre-existing, non-conforming, has no existing parking in less than 3,500 square feet, making zoning almost obsolete to what we're trying to do. Because again, we can't do parking and commercial storefronts, one or the other. So we're really just trying to get a green light on a concept, so then we can come back and tune it up and go from there. It's really the point of this meeting. Oh yeah, so we did a vacancy parking analysis with the 7 spots on the east side of. You can go down one more. And every day I basically went by and took a picture. No one's ever there. So we were hoping the town would either lease us those spots or let us overnight access to the residents there for those 7 spots. Our abutters, Dean Bank, have 4 access points to their lot. We have 0. And then 29, Dean also has signed off right directly across from that parking has, I don't know if they're deeded, but they have the right signs there for their 29 Dean only. I can continue. Nothing changed over from spring into summer. It was still this always vacant, because we knew parking was going to be a big concern on the board, and trying to prove, because we know it's 1.5 per residential as is. You can keep going. Yep. We did a parking exhibit showing where in 2001 Dean Bank was granted those where the red markings are allowed extra access to the in the rear. So we're not even asking for access, we're just asking, we're not asking for a curb cut, they were just asking for essentially those 7 spots. Which I think in turn would be 6 or 8 residential units. Those are some solutions we came up with for parking. You can keep going, another one. Obviously the MBTA is a pitch and wedge away. And you can go another one. Yeah, please. Okay. Again, we think this aligns directly with the master plan and the business guide for small businesses and development, especially in downtown commercial, and they're pushing for mixed use, and based off what your guys' feedback was on April 8th. Really wanted to get your feedback and curious to hear what, I know we don't have a rendering, but
Okay.
kind of wanted to have a conversation, because I can't get a conversation anywhere besides this public forum.
Sure. But before I go to the audience, I'll go to the board. I guess Jen wants to ask a couple of questions.
Are you surprised? Through the chair, actually, I guess I don't really have questions. I have comments. I want to see this project happen very badly. This property is ripe for exactly what you're proposing, and you're right, is in line with everything that's being discussed at the master plan level, all the different subcommittees and economic development and et cetera, et cetera. Conceptually, really love the bottom right precedent image that you showed on that slide. I know from I love what you're showing on the site with commercial, potentially 2 tenants, full street front on the public way with residential above. I see that you're now proposing a 4-story building. I want to see you maximize the number of residential units, but not this is at the same time a transitional property, right? Like the existing property is 2.5 stories essentially. And most of the properties heading down the street are heading into that scale. I wonder if there's a way that, and actually Dean Bank did this on Main Street. I don't like the architecture, but from the pedestrian scale and experience and the experience as you're driving down the street, most people don't even know that Dean's a 3-story building because the top story is set back, right? So it addresses sort of that bulk mass issue of whereas everything would be right on the street edge, the top story is pushed back so that at least when you're walking down or you're driving down, most people would never even know that it's 4 stories, maybe with the exception of seeing the back of it, but at that point it's all parking and kind of back of house space anyway. So that would be a suggestion, is to address that height issue by playing with the bulk massing, but seeing how it could step back as you move up through the building. I understand you're trying to maximize the number of residential units. I personally would support this project without parking. I want to see the town figure out something to allow exactly what you're proposing, and then the number of those suggestions. I think those are all great suggestions. There's got to be some way to do it, which is beyond our control, but I would support the project despite that and hope that the town can figure out this parking situation downtown to allow not just this project to happen, but future projects. That being said, that currently would not compromise my decision on this project. I would continue to have conversations with the town. Yes.
So my understanding is you guys can approve the waive in the parking.
Yeah, we can for your project. I'm just saying this is still like a bigger town.
Right. It's not a 19D
yeah,
issue. It's a town of Franklin issue downtown.
Exactly. So you're correct. We can grant that for this specific project. I'm just saying the town has a bigger.
Right.
I would love to see the town agree to lease spots or to do a number of the suggestions that you've presented here. I don't know that we can require the town to do that as a part of the project. I guess that's what we're saying. We don't have any authority to say, yes, the town has to do this for this project to move forward. No. Yes. So. Correct. But overall, I like this proposal overall more than what was shown last time.
So like, have you guys been downtown? No one's down there. I have a hard time understanding why the parking is so relevant, especially it's not like we have this big site where we're just trying not to do parking and cram in all these units. The previous developer got approved for 16 through the ZBA. We came back with the 3. I feel like this is right in the middle, and again, I don't think there should be anything except support based on everything I've read on the master plan, the business guide. I think it's a perfect project for the site. It's a catalyst for downtown revitalization. Nothing's going on down there every single day. We provided activation, commercial storefronts. I'm in agreement. I'm expressing my opinion. I would need, the reason why is our current bylaws require, like our bylaws are our bylaws. Right. So the bylaws need to change in order for, like long term, right? But for this particular project in this moment, I personally support this with granting waivers.
I'll go, but before I go, I'll go to the rest of the board first. Mark?
No, I agree with Jen. I think the project is perfect for this location, and just that we have bylaws that we have to deal with. The only obstacle I see is the overnight parking part of it. There's no overnight parking. That would be the only thing, unless we were able to get those spots leased to them or something to that nature. Because that's all pay parking in there. I'm not opposed to it, the building itself. I think the commercial space is what we're looking for. That's exactly it. There's actually things going through the board at the town council now that are looking towards these things.
Yep, correct. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So overall, I appreciate the change on the commercial space. That was one of my concerns last time. I think having more of it is more viable to what we're looking for. You have side street retail now that's accessible from downtown. That's great. I would just want to be careful about what I'm saying, given the zoning amendments we were just discussing the last time and was going to be before the town council in the next month or two. I'm very much in favor of maintaining 1.5 parking spaces per residential unit in the downtown commercial district. However, as a minimum, that is what I think the floor should be. And then on a project by project basis, we can look at it and make determinations based on feasibility due to site constraints, use, the willingness of the developer to work with the board. So there's instances, and I think this is one of them, where we could look to mitigate and go to 1 or less than 1 per unit, depending on what we can find. I would really like to see some more exploration of what Jen had mentioned in regards to finding off-site parking spaces as best as possible, whether it's, approaching to the town and there's a resident sticker, and this is obviously a bigger change, maybe not project level, but where you can have permitting overnight parking available, or you can lease spaces from Rockland Trust parking lot at whatever cost to you, then you pass on to the tenants or whatever it is, or the residents. So for those reasons, I think the parking is a big thing, because I think no matter what you want to propose and what we approve, people that live there are going to have a car, and they're going to be stuck not being able to park it somewhere, and that's going to impact negatively their surrounding neighborhood and community, and that's what I want to try and avoid from what we're doing here. So I agree with Jen and the other board members. I think the project is a good fit. I really appreciate the iteration that are presented here. The layout of the commercial on the first floor, I think it's very well thought out. I would like to see a resolution to the parking as best as we can to find that. The zoning board comment, yes, it was approved by the zoning board, but that was for sizing only. Parking is not a part of that. The zoning board doesn't approve or not approve parking. That comes to our board here. So they were granted a 50-foot, which I was on the board at that time, not in favor of the 50-foot. I think 40 is sufficient. These 16 units I thought was a bit much by coming down from 50 to 40 would be more appropriate. But I think 6 to 8 units, whatever you can get on a 40-foot height for me, I think is where I'd feel most comfortable.
Thank you.
Jay?
So I need to echo what everyone else said, not to beat a dead horse, but I think this is what we're looking for downtown. The parking just doesn't cut it for me. I think in an area like this, we can start looking at reduced parking requirements, even below 1.5, and that's usually kind of where I stop and end. Like you said, this being so close to the train, there's a decent chance that people try to take advantage of that. But to hop on what Chris said, people own cars and they're going to want to park them. So at 8 units of residential, at a minimum, I'd want to see 12 spots or something like that. And I guess this does, piggybacking off of what Jen said, lead to a bigger conversation. And I think the town has been deficient in its search for parking solutions for downtown. We live in a suburb. We're spread out. If we want people from all parts of town to be able to access our downtown and really take advantage of the activation we're searching for here, we need some place for them to park, and it's a pain to park downtown. I guess we should probably, as a community, do a little bit better job to solve that. But without the 12, without at least 12 spots of this, I'm not feeling too great.
All good, Jay?
Yep, that's it.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, did Mark comment yet?
Yeah, he did.
I don't want this to result in an impasse. I feel like as a board, we need to come to a clear sort of direction for the applicant to have a project that's going to do all of the things that the town is looking for, right? Like, yes, our bylaws say 1.5, but they also grant us the authority to waive that in instances, to Chris's point, where a site is so restricted that a parking requirement will compromise the effectiveness of the ability for the applicant to actually meet those town goals by coming to us with what was shown previously, which in my opinion just doesn't do anything for downtown. I don't know. Is there anything we could put in the court of others who have more authority to allow for shared parking of any sort to happen as a part of this project?
I mean, other than the
This is like-
current, owner of the property working out, a private, with maybe a Button Properties, the town at this point, they would have to, it gets beyond just writing a letter to allow town parking. It's procurement, it's bylaws, it's a huge change, so they can't legally provide to say he can have parking, the owner can have parking spots there. So I think at this point, to provide parking would be for the owner to work something out with abutters in the area. Maybe a private agreement.
But I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't wanna be the ones to hold us up because it's gonna take a year for the town to figure out what that change to the bylaws is going to be.
But you gotta also remember that the applicant purchased this property knowing that parking was part of the site. So it goes back to him as well with it. We'll be willing to work, we're not gonna, we don't have the jurisdiction to give town property away to grant access, et cetera, et cetera.
No,
But think,
I know that the town will never give up their parking.
Yeah.
That's never gonna be an option
so,
at this point.
so
But-
I have a question, on the left side of the building,
Right.
you have parking spaces that you had hashed out in red zones, who owns that property?
The town. 7
Town
spot.
owns- They own from
Dean.
curb of Dean Ave down?
Correct. Down to the Dean Bank.
What happened, what happens if he did a garage under and 2 spaces were created as an easement for him to get in and out of the building, he can get his parking under his garage, under the
It would
building?
take more than.
Well, that was talked about the last meeting, you guys didn't want that would have to come on Dean Ave, then he.
No, he'd come out on the side of the parking lot.
I
with
don't
his
know if
parking
he's gonna get
garage.
a curb cut, I mean,
Yeah, we would still
You'd
need.
be entering the parking lot itself.
you'd be blocking the parking.
No, you take 2 spots out, if he could work something out. I'm just throwing it out
The
there as an
town's
option.
not willing to give a parking
Okay,
spaces.
now the other is, you have an option is Dean has a parking lot across the street, they park there during the day.
Right.
You may be able to work a deal out with Dean, they already have it gated with fobs and everything. Maybe you can work something out with them to get some of your parking, there at night. But our rules and our bylaws, they're there for a reason too, because you also have to remember, if cars are parked there on the street, day in and day out, how's the town gonna plow the streets, how are they gonna maintain them? How are they
They
gonna
do
plow the
it in a
sidewalks?
lot of other communities.
Yeah, they plow them in.
It's, or
Look like
there's a
South-
ban
I
and
know,
people
it
have to
look
move
like
their
South
cars.
Boston,
I
though.
mean,
The guy shovels out and he puts his toilet out there, so one of those parks in it, we don't want that. So,
Is this an answer?
unfortunately, it's there, and I don't think the board's not saying no to it, but I think other options, off-site parking. Does Dean own something close by that you could piggyback with them?
Right.
Maybe somebody from Dean will go in there and rent or lease the unit as well. So
Right.
I think that could be another option as an example.
So we've spoke with Dean College and Dean Bank, and both said that they can't permit access to lots. I know Dean Bank we've been in contact with Dean Bank since the beginning, just going through the steps, and they're in favor of this project. Our right of way to have a curb cut, it's on Dean Avenue, but if we have a curb cut there, we can't do commercial storefronts. Because the town, we've already tried that direction, the town isn't gonna give us access off that town way, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense based on Dean Bank got approved in 2002 for 2 curb cuts there.
yeah.
So instead of asking for the curb cuts, we're just like overnight access to those 7 spots.
Yeah, so, certainly appreciate the feedback, and, I think everyone appreciates the dynamic here, which is, did you put the building on stilts, put the parking under? He had proposed a garage, but then you eliminate the storefronts, which is a key component. So, the applicant, and we can discuss, but just can't come in and say, I want this. So we'll make a showing to the board that the applicant is gonna exhaust every possibility to try to find some off-street parking. And I think then the conundrum for the board is if he does do that and makes that showing that he's tried, now we'll be handcuffed, right, with a key commercial property And that's the kicker, is he's tried, there is no other way to get parking on the site. But, you know, we're not there yet, right? So the applicant understands the feedback and will certainly make, before asking for a reduction in parking, make a showing to this board of all the steps that he's taken and all the folks he's contacted to try to. I mean, I have notes about people to contact, 100-year lease, all those kinds of things that we can exhaust. But we'll do that.
Yeah, no, I guess there's bylaws going through right now about parking downtown, so in the master plan, so I would say do your homework in the interim and then see how that plays out, because the parking in the downtown goes to town council on something like that, so they can actually overrule the planning board with a zoning change, so our hands could be tied potentially. So I would probably say do a little more homework and, see what plays out with the zoning.
We've been watching that closely.
Huh?
We've been watching that closely.
Yeah, so we're not gonna make any decisions tonight, but we're just trying to throw some options out there and, yeah, I mean, it needs to be fixed, but, you know, we also have to, you know, we have to follow our bylaws, and there is some flexibility, I'm sure, with the board on this, but it may be, knocking down a couple units because you're getting relief on parking too, so. And what the zoning, and what the zoning board approved, like Chris said, it had nothing to do with the parking, it was more just about the footprint and the scale of it, as well as to the sideline variances. Okay?
Have you contemplated a residential unit mix yet?
What do you mean?
Studios, ones, twos?
Yeah, so we went over like from 5 to 9 floor plans, basically. That sweet spot is like 6 to 8 to have normal size 1 and 2 bedrooms, so I think it'd be a mix of like 3 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedrooms. One thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, what's the alternative here? Because the alternative is something like this doesn't go, we could do a 3-family though, and that doesn't activate anything, and have a curb cut on Dean Ave. And we would still have to come back for a special permit because a single family isn't allowed in downtown commercial, and even 2 units, 2 residential units, we would need 4,000 square feet because it's 2,000 per residential unit. So the existing zoning is, again, I say obsolete because it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure site.
I think non-conforming is putting it gently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
So,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
yeah, I mean, I would say just, you almost gotta hang tight and see where this thing plays out, you know? But in the meantime, pursue
Totally.
other avenues.
Yep.
Right? And go from there. Jay, you on board with that as well?
I think that's probably the best route, Chairman.
Just so it aligns with the master plan committee, not that it's up to us to make sure everything aligns, but if it helps, like, you know, in the zoning bylaw changes, so be.
You have a handout, if you wanna go to the audience.
Yep, so everybody good for now? So we'll go to the audience, who's?
I mean, just in terms of, sorry, just to comment on the process of the master plan committee, I mean, that's still gonna be months of time for that to even be finished, and then for action items to start to be implemented as a result of that. So I just want everyone to be clear on the timeframe of that.
I think to the proponent's question, I guess at the beginning, so that he can start formulating thoughts and ideas more substantially, possibly. What was everyone's feel on height, units? So then that way he doesn't start framing out, 8 units, 50 feet, great, I'll find parking, and we say, 50 feet, I don't think so. Like, I think that's kind of gonna help him make some better decisions. So I'm not in favor of 50. I'd love to see 40 at the highest. Jen, I know you talked about stepping down, so just so that he has.
40 is pretty tall, you're right
I
on
think
the edge
40
of
is
the
the same
sidewalk,
side
don't
as
forget.
Dean
That's
Bank,
4
I think is
stories.
40.
Yeah, but that's set off the edge of the street, don't forget, this is
But it's
right
on-
on the footprint.
But on Dean Ave side, I believe that height is on the Dean Ave side. This
Yeah, that's
this
3
part of the building,
stories.
right here,
Yeah, that's 3 stories.
would match, but it would match this. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, just proportionately, you're right on the edge of the sidewalk,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, they're proposing 47.5 feet. Oh wait, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. They're proposing less than 50 feet, so that's 50 feet, 4 stories. I mean, I think 3 stories is much more in line with, if something, like I said, steps back beyond that 3 stories, that you'd never perceive from Dean or Ave or Main Street, then I'd be open to that, but I don't wanna see 4-story facade on Dean Ave. Just in relationship to everything on either side and across the street. What that means for number of units, I mean, obviously, you know, what I don't, it's sort of, it's a little bit of a game, right? Because you could have more units that are studios and you could have less units that are 3 bedrooms, and then it probably is similar in terms of parking impact.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I guess I'm a little less concerned, like the units are kind of gonna be what they are depending on that scale and what fits at the height. I'm more concerned about, love the full commercial street front, love the residential pie, don't wanna see a facade higher than 3 stories right at the street edge. Okay, if something sets back. I mean, I think, above that, but that's the absolute highest I'd like to, I contemplate.
Jay?
See, with the height, I'm kind of, I'm not bothered by the 50 foot. I think if anywhere we're gonna do it, it's gonna be over there. You know, eventually, I think that those 50 feet might be the height of the structure that we're looking at over there as development in eastern Massachusetts continues and accelerates. So I'm not bothered by height. If I were to go on anything, you know, is there any way to kind of accommodate, you know, under some grand compromise, parking under the building and a commercial storefront? Like, is that a thing that's doable? I'm not a structural engineer or a building guy. I'm intimately familiar with the grading over there.
No, you can do it, if it's the access to the site, that's why I asked if it could be on the left side of the building, because you could do a 2-car, you know, garage under on the side.
And we can't go access off the street?
Then that goes back to the.
Yeah, I don't think it's
back to the
doable.
Dean
It's
Ave
just,
setup.
you know, this site needs to be developed. It needs to be developed into something that's, you know, kind of showing what we can do downtown, right, when we have the option to redevelop something. You know, like Jen said, we shouldn't really be digging our heels in here on, you know, a bunch of requirements to make this undevelopable. Yeah, there's a lot more discussion to be had on this one.
So, I guess 40-foot range thereabouts, maybe step it back if you try to approach, I think 50's overbearing myself, but,
But if it's,
yeah, just a couple quick facade renderings. I think the biggest stumbling block is your parking. You're just gonna have to find the parking. And I think the site is doable as long as you have the parking.
And I think if you, through your search, find that parking is extremely limited or not available, one of the things I put to the prior owner and developer was that you need to then make concessions for bike storage, bike parking to that end, so that the residents would have availability outside of their 600 square foot apartment to store a bike. So that's just gotta be a consideration if that's a result.
alternative modes of
Alternative
transportation.
modes of transportation.
Just another one to throw out there from my time in the city. There's no option for like off-site parking anywhere, is there? That we could, you know, and I'm within the neighborhood, right? So not even necessarily something directly adjacent. If we're gonna start being creative where, you know, we have 6 spots for you, but it's 2 blocks away. I'm, you know, just kind of trying to throw out options and possible solutions. It's something that we utilize up in Worcester on occasion.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna try to do. They're gonna try to pursue other avenues for parking. Okay, so.
There-
Kobe, we still have Kobe that's
Kobe,
been
yeah.
waiting to speak for a while.
Okay.
Wanna go to Kobe?
Wanna let him in?
He can come in, just
Oh.
talk. Yeah, go ahead, Kobe.
Go ahead, Kobe.
Yeah, apologies, team. Recognize that this is just a conversation, but I don't think I'd be doing my due diligence as a town leader if I didn't express my strong support for this project and for the proposal. I would just remind us, and I would include the planning board in that we have a responsibility to maximize the productivity of our valuable land, and there is no more valuable land in Franklin for residential and commercial use than in this lot, and which is central in our downtown core. So it maximizes tax revenue. It also, our commercial vibrancy is built on there being a network of vibrant street fronts, and this is certainly key to that. So I think that we should not see it as like, he inherited a property and so too bad if it doesn't work. No, we need it to work. Like we need to try to figure out how to make it work. And I don't think that requiring on-site parking maximizes the use of that space, especially when it sits directly next to an abandoned lot. I would strongly disagree with any characterization that the town would not consider giving up its parking spaces or making agreements around its parking spaces. In fact, I think that the master plan, as has already been said, is very much going to center that as a conversation. We as a town should be making the most efficient use of our spaces, and leaving them empty overnight is not doing that. We could be getting revenue for the town and allowing the private spaces to maximize their use. So this is going to be a continued conversation. I look forward to being a part of that from the town side. But as much as I can urge y'all to support making this project viable without handicapping it to a point where it doesn't even come forward. That's my 2 cents, and look forward to the continued conversation.
Thank you. Okay, so what do you want to do for duration of time?
I mean, is it up to the board again, August 19th or September 9th?
Want to do a September 9th with an update possibly?
Sure.
Works for us, Mr.
Maybe
Chair.
something will transpire in between then. So make a motion to continue 19 Dean Ave until September 9th. Do I hear a second?
Second. Roll call vote. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yep.
Okay. Last one minute. I know, huh? She's got some. Okay, this will be an initial public hearing for Donovan Estates. This is a first reading, so I make a motion to waive the reading. Do I hear a second?
Second. Roll call vote. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay. So, I guess I'll go to Amy first. No, I was thinking of something else prior to this. Amy, if you could give us a brief overview of this project, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So they've submitted a 8-lot buildable subdivision off of Partridge Street with a new roadway. It was submitted back on June 11th. The board typically has 45 days per our bylaws to provide a decision. So the decision is not made tonight for the approval, then we would need to ask the applicant for an extension. They've anticipated 3 waivers, which I've listed here, which are pretty much typical waivers that we've seen in the past for subdivisions. And other than that, the subdivision complies with the subdivision rules and regulations.
Okay, good, thank you. Before I go to the board, if I could just have you guys introduce yourselves for the record, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Rick Goodrow with United Consultants. Here this evening, Dan Lewis, one of the applicants for the proposed project.
Okay. If you want to give us an overview of the project, please?
Sure, can I use the
Sure.
easel there, Amy, or I can set up mine?
There's nothing that clips, you can't clip onto that.
Okay,
Sorry.
I can
Oh,
set
you
one
can't
up
clip
here.
onto that when you're there.
I can
Well-
set mine up here, but I don't know where would be a good view for the camera.
You could probably set it
Or
right
you can
there,
put it
Rick.
right in front of your table.
In front
too.
of the table,
If you
and
wanna,
you can pick it up.
sorry, we're not as accommodating in this
No.
room.
Unfortunately, some people won't be able to see it.
Sorry, Greg has his glasses, we're fine.
So,
I think I'm getting old.
the property located off of Partridge Street across from Harborwood Drive roadway.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
that's fine.
Can you, could you get that?
Yeah.
And then put it on the screen?
There we
They're
go.
trying.
Yep.
Make it a little easier for you to see.
Alright, so this is the general idea as to where the property is located. We have Elm Street, Dover Circle in the vicinity. Provided you with an existing conditions plan. Currently, the house has a driveway, pool, garage, driveway in this location here, serviced by town sewer, and a private water service with a well. As Amy mentioned, the proposal is to develop the property with a roadway system that complies with the town subdivision rules and regulations, with the exception of the waiver requests, providing 8 lots for buildings, as well as a parcel for a detention basin. So what we have done is provided 2 development options. One would be a conventional roadway system, which would provide for catch basins for capture of stormwater and then discharge into the detention basin area. The second would be for a second would be for a roadway development that would provide for a swale to be located on the side of the roadway, capture the stormwater crossings in each of the driveways. I've actually put together a little packet, if I may, to Jim,
Sure.
hand them out, just to give the board some ideas of what we're talking about.
Watch out for the cords.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
That's one way to get rid of one.
So, we did anticipate stormwater being an issue with this site. That is an issue with both sites, and how to deal with it. So, what we did was we looked at 2 different options. We provided you a little report here, and in Appendix A, you would see typical roadway cross-section with a road that would be crowned in the middle, sloped towards each side, catch basins at various points to collect the stormwater. In Appendix B, we provided a little different option, which would be roadway that would be elevated from one side to the other, no crown, direct the stormwater towards the swale area, which would be located on the down gradient side, one sidewalk on the opposite side. And then in Appendix C, we've given you some pictures of examples of this project we had done in Norfolk. Norway Farms, located off of Medway Street. And you can see the swale integrated into the front yard, the drainage pipe being installed at the crossing of the driveway. You can see the stone check dam for velocity dissipation and to allow for settlement of the stormwater. The second picture's of you looking upstream from that. House is under construction upstream, but you can get a feel for the check dam in the yard and how it integrates in with the driveway. And then lastly, is a third picture from a project in Rentham, where you can see the driveway crossing in the swale, and this has a more conventional curved roadway system, which is, you know, a different option. And then in Appendix D, we provided for the water quality information for a grass channel filter swale, as it was previously called. So we just really wanted to talk with the board about those options before we went to the next step, you know, soil testing, moving forward into a definitive design, see if there was any traction on this alternative. I'm certainly happy to work with Beta and Mike Maglio as we work through the process, if that was something the board would entertain. And I would also like to point out that there is an existing sewer easement here, an interceptor line that runs through the property that would be located within the roadway, and we would be petitioning the town council for an extension of the water main. But the sewer's already there.
Okay.
So, be certainly happy to answer any questions the board or the neighbors may have. Really wanted to just get out in front of the stormwater.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I guess I'll go to the board first before I go to Mike and Beta. Comments, questions?
My first question was gonna be, why not a sidewalk on both sides, but now I see why. I guess my question is, the third image in Appendix C, alphabet was not my strong suit. How does the granite curbing work with the swale in regards to water getting off the street and into the swale?
So, in this particular application, the water was trapped in the swale from the yards.
So that's a yard catch
It's
basin
a
as
yard
opposed to the
catchment
street.
system as opposed to the street. There's an underground infiltration system under the cul-de-sac for the roadway drainage. So they kind of had a hybrid, if you will, for the lot drainage. In our situation, the lots are draining away from the road, majority of them on the right-hand side as you go up the road. So that wouldn't be as applicable, but that is an option. We've done it different ways. We've allowed for sheet flow off the road, done a gravel diaphragm. We've also had, in the one in Norfolk, we basically had breaks in the curbing with paved runoff areas into the swale, and then immediately put in check dams to provide for some slowing of the stormwater and some settlement at that point, almost as like a forebay, if you will. So we've seen different options.
I have one question that may help maybe the board. Are you gonna try to keep this as a private way, or you wanna go public?
Here's my
'Cause
question
that's
as
gonna
well.
make that's gonna make a big decision on what kind of drainage system goes in.
The preference would be a public way.
So who's gonna maintain this, Rick? Because
that's where
I'm
I
gonna
was
tell you
going.
right now, that the killer with these modern BMPs is that the stormwater division is gonna have to maintain this, and they probably only have so much funding and so many guys to do it. So for that reason, I think a traditional drainage kind of works better here. And I'll let Mike weigh in on that from a DPW end, but I think the maintenance here is the problem.
That's why I asked the question, Jay. Okay. Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that'll help clarify.
You
a
did
lot.
so beautifully, yes, thank you. I think the only other follow-up I had with that then is with the swale, obviously it looks like there's no curbing, and what's the impact to the roadside maintenance there and the, the erosion of that over time versus granite and keeping it nice, neat and clean, but that's all I got.
No, I had the same as far as the maintaining and the.
Okay.
That was my first thing. Thank you.
Jack? Good. Jay?
That was the only one I had, I think the rest of the subdivision's cut and dry. I don't think the drainage works.
Yep, okay. Mike? What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as far as the swale versus the closed drainage system, I mean, the swale and the BMPs, that's kind of in line with the stormwater permit and everything there, but that always is the issue with maintenance. If it's a wide open, smooth swale and homeowners mow the lawn, have it mowed just like regular lawns, it's usually not an issue, but depending on how it's designed and how it's actually maintained, if it's overgrown and stops flowing, becomes an issue, then DPW has to get in there and do things with it. I mean, it could be, depending how it's done, it could be something where it's less maintenance with DPW, or it could be more maintenance. It's really kind of difficult to tell at this preliminary stage. Regarding the other 3 requested waivers, we don't see any issues to those necessarily. One was to allow the proposed catch basins, if they want the traditional system greater than 300 feet apart. That's not an issue because there would be a high point in the middle, so it's really just 300 feet of sheet flow, so that's not a problem at all. The other waiver for the location of the double catch basin and the cul-de-sac, I didn't see an issue with that. And then for one sidewalk versus both, one on each side, typically the board will grant something like that if their developer's proposing vertical granite as opposed to sloped edging on each side. So that's something that's been done in the past.
Sure.
With the sidewalk, in relation to the swales, that's something on the detail that Rick had provided. Basically, if there was one sidewalk, that would be on the high side, the pavement would be all sheet flow to, with a cross slope going to the other side, so that shouldn't be a problem with that.
Okay. All right. Matt, I know you really didn't look, but your thoughts?
So I'd say Beta has not reviewed this at all. It's a preliminary subdivision, typically not involved with that, but in consideration that they're looking to make this a public access, I would defer to Mike for his preference on the stormwater design.
Okay, good. Yeah, my gut feeling would be if it's gonna be public, I would say just go with the closed pipe system. I think if the town's gonna take it, wanna just manage it, wanna maintain it, we don't wanna have to maintain swales and whatnot, but I know it isn't part of our regulation unless you can incorporate a little bit here and there, but, if we're gonna take it, then I think just with a conventional drainage system, probably be easier in the long run. Okay, I guess, yeah, I was just gonna, if anyone else had any questions, if not, I'll go to the audience. If anybody has any comments or questions, just approach the mic, just give your name and address, please.
Steve Jazinski, 24A Elm Street. So as far as this, I'm glad the stormwater brought up. Do you guys live up in that side of town? Have you seen Elm Street and Partridge Street after a heavy rain, as it is right now? I mean, the infrastructure doesn't handle that as it is.
Rick, you wanna
Does that,
give them a
is this
little
gonna
insight
mitigate
on?
that? I mean, you come down Elm Street on it after
Yeah.
a heavy rain, and it's, I mean, the water's all over the place. You know, the brook down on Partridge is up near the road. Is that gonna mitigate all that?
Actually, you should go to the chair, please.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's-
I'm sorry.
It may help the area, right, if I'm not mistaken, by taking some of the water away.
But isn't
Not
it only
adding to
taking water away from that field area that takes that
The
water
pre and
in? You're
post.
essentially just creating more, and excuse me if I get the wording right, is it impervious streets and houses? Okay, I'm just curious. I
Yeah,
mean-
I'm gonna defer to
Yeah.
the
Thank
engineer,
you.
because he may be able to help you with that one.
Sure, so what the evaluation of the stormwater would be at a definitive subdivision stage would be the pre-development versus post-development impacts of the area of study, which would be the development itself. As far as the impacts of the existing street system, intersections, I'm not sure exactly what intersection you were talking about, Elm Street and
Okay,
Partridge?
it's essentially right where Elm and Partridge, that whole section from where Elm and Partridge on both sides, it's just, after a heavy rain, it's just, I mean, the streets, some days it's almost impassable, there's so much water there.
Mr. Chair, I believe there's a lot of high groundwater in that area. Seen it before, different areas. So, again, with this preliminary subdivision, no drainage, stormwater design has been presented. It's just, Ryan Brick was just presenting a couple different options. So, until they actually do a design, we really nothing to really assess how that would impact the area around it.
No, that's fair
necessarily.
enough.
But-
I just
but
wanted to
it is-
bring it up.
It is, I have noticed high groundwater in that area, generally speaking, absolutely. And I think it all stems from the, coming off from the top of the hill over by Skyline, Charles.
yeah.
A lot of it just bleeds off that hill in all directions and eventually comes down to this area. I've seen that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure, just name and address, please.
Barbara Jasinski, 24A Elm Street. Besides what my husband had just mentioned, just to make sure that everybody here realizes, those, I think it's, you've proposed 4 properties as you're driving into this cul-de-sac. To the right-hand side, that abuts the Mine Brook, which then goes into the Charles River. And I'm just kind of curious as far as environmentally, that's a swamp when that, besides the roads, that whole field right now is a swamp in the springtime. You get stuck there, you walk there, whatever, it's a total swamp. So I'm just kind of bringing it up, whether you guys are concerned with that, with the houses that are gonna be on that side there. It's a definite swamp, because that Mine Brook just goes up.
Good, thank you. Anybody, yeah,
Yeah.
just name and address,
Allison
please.
White, 43 Partridge, so my house is the house that abuts the driveway that we're now proposing will be a road. The house was built in 1740, so it's a historic property. It's really crushing to think that that land would be developed for a lot of different reasons. So my house will now have, I think, 4 or 5 new houses that will be in our line of sight, which is really sad. I would also speak to the traffic on Partridge Street, which, you know, we call it the Speedway for, you know, all the reasons. We're constantly asking the police to monitor at the corner of Harborwood and Partridge because of the speed in which people go down that street. As you know, it goes over, the little bridge goes over, you know, the Charles River there, and it can be a blind spot for people, and I'm mindful of that driveway pulling out. So I have concerns about the traffic, you know, adding another 16 cars, and there are no sidewalks. You know, I'm fortunate I have an acre and a third of land, and my children got to play in the backyard, but there's no safe place for kids to walk, bike, you know, or do anything on that road as it is. You're taking a historic scenic road and then adding a subdivision, which there really aren't, you know, with the exception of the Dover Circles and stuff. There are no other like smaller subdivisions that have been added in there. So in addition to the things that my neighbors have said, those are, you know, those are all concerns. And I'm just gonna put out there that, you know, is a huge area for wildlife, you know, that pass through and they over to the Charles River, and so it's really sad to think that a lot of that land will be gone.
Good, thank you. Anybody else, you guys, got questions, comments?
I agree with what they presented.
Okay,
I mean, I have a lot of
Yeah,
questions about it.
just approach the mic and give your
Identify yourself.
name and
Please
address.
Speak through the chair.
John Camiolo, 19 Partridge Street. I'm actually here. My daughter just gave birth last night. She lives at the house. Thanks. I'm taking care of the 1-year-old. I'm kind of tired. The concern is, I mean, obviously, a person has a right to develop their land, but there is a line of sight that it's a beautiful site. And we're going to be losing that, and that negatively impacts the value of my daughter's house. What we're concerned with is a couple things. One would be lighting, appropriate dark skies. It's a, you know, there's not, I don't know what the procedure is on that. Are there going to be street lights? Are there going to be low lighting? The height of the houses also going to be of interest. I mean, there's a lot of questions on this. I don't know where this is in the process. And
This is just a preliminary of the basic layout. What the next step will be, they'll have to come up with a full definitive subdivision plan, which will entail a lot more detail, which will show the lighting. It shows where the houses are. They're probably, what, 2,400 square foot houses or thereabouts. Probably just a regular straight front colonials or something like that.
it's a decline of a hill, so it's slightly recessed from where we are, so I'm just curious what the heights, the maximum height of the houses that are allowed also, because that would affect.
So, yeah, and this is just kind of getting them to the next level where they have to put all the detail in. This is just a conceptual plan, and then the next detail would be all the infrastructure, the drainage, and lighting, et cetera, which will.
If I could just give a comment to
Sure.
I've been to a couple of these down New York. This is the most professionally run board I've seen. You guys do a really nice job.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, in terms of like allowable heights, all of that is, in terms of what's allowed in the zoning district is publicly available online, in the matrix. So I'm sure anyone from the town would be happy to point you to where that is, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Actually, my neighbor told us about the meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my name's Bob Senge. I represent 22 Elm Street. So we own a lot of the land behind the Dunham estate and associated with that. So, full disclosure, I know Dan, so I know a lot of aspects of what he's trying to do, and I support that in general. This is my cousin, so we all grew up on these fields and stuff. When the land got split up between, my aunt, my father, and my uncle, they didn't envision all this, 40 years ago when they subdivided and stuff like that. So now my 30 acres is becoming a little bit, I got a very small frontage, zero, only 150. So I'm here for that, just looking out for my best interests of my family and stuff. So, and I understand these concerns with everybody here and stuff, and and I know those fields so well. I worked them, when I was a kid. So, whatever decisions are made, I support Nancy and late Jack that whatever they want to do and stuff. It's their land. They worked hard for it. And I want to support it. I'm just concerned how I'm trying to navigate around what's going on and
Buy
stuff.
one of the new houses.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're not in a position right now to ever, build right now. Certainly with, with my parents are still alive and stuff. So, but, I'm just thinking long term, for our family and stuff like that, what we can do and stuff. So, but, that's why I'm just being nosy. So,
Sure, no
but,
worries.
Yeah, it's an old chicken farm that
Yep.
used to have, used to be 110 acres and stuff, so it's, just seeing how things evolve.
Okay. I did have one question. Is the existing house and garage, I see it on the lots, is the existing house gonna stay on its own individual lot?
Yes.
All right, and the garage is gonna have an additional house built with it, within that lot?
That's the plan at this time,
Okay.
yeah.
Anybody else?
I have one more question.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. Again, as Bob said, you guys are allowed to build whatever you want with your land. I'm just kind of curious, is it possible to downsize it instead of 8 houses, make it 6? Or something like that? It
Yeah,
just-
and give me the other land.
That's between you and the applicant.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just, again, to eliminate maybe whether it's the traffic or whatever.
If they meet the regulations, we can't tell them
Yep.
to say they have to put 5 or 3 or,
Okay. Okay.
thank you. Okay.
Just for my clarification of misremembering, so the preliminary, what we're considering tonight is just the concept of a subdivision, not size and scale and number of lots?
Correct. Well, number of lots.
Number of lots,
Number of
definitely,
lots.
okay.
It'll be a conventional subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
This is showing that they can actually do it
Based on
within
all
our
the-
regulations,
yeah, the
and,
circles.
and then they'll come back with a full detailed plan showing everything.
Yep, okay.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to close the hearing on this. Do I hear a second?
Second,
All
roll
in-
call.
Yeah, all in favor?
Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay, so then, it being closed, I make a motion just to approve the preliminary subdivision with the definitive to follow. So that means this isn't the end of it. The definitive subdivision will all have all the details in it, okay? So do I-
Second, roll call vote, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes,
Jennifer Williams, yes.
okay.
When the,
Thank you.
when the definitive comes out, or when that comes down, is there another notification to the abutters, or is this?
Yes.
the- okay.
Yes,
Yes.
so everybody will, yes, correct.
Yes, there will be.
I was gonna say, can we find out, we didn't get, my mother got the letter, we didn't, and where?
Same address, or?
They're required to mail within 300 feet. If you're not within 300 feet, you
yeah.
don't, okay, then you should have gotten one. Everything is mailed by regular mail. We can't control the mail. All we can do is.
Maybe just reconfirm the address?
It is mail it, and if you wanna send me your address, I can make sure you,
For the abutters
you were
list?
on the list, but, yeah. But it goes to the assessor's office, a certified list to the assessor's office.
Yeah.
It's not something we create or the applicant creates, it's a certified list that the assessor provides to the applicant, that they actually, pay for and then we just mail it.
Put that on there.
You're welcome.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in
roll
favor?
call, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Jay. Have fun with the little one.
I'm knee
Recording
surgery
stopped.
next week. It's more like good luck.